Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 4th Board of Supervisors Business Meeting. We have a number of items on the agenda tonight, mainly of which are old business, but after calling the meeting to order and the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll go through the approval of minutes as normal, have an opening for public comment, chairperson of the board and board members' comments, any comments by the manager, and then we'll move into old business. You'll see that there are 3 items under the old business that are going to, individuals are going to be speaking on those items of interest. There are no items of new interest for new business. We'll move into the subdivision and land development under 9A, improvement guarantees. Subsequent to that, we'll move on to the payment of bills for the Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority. Any announcements, and then obviously at the end, our adjournment. So the board is seated and ready to conduct business, and I'll turn it over to Chairperson Kurtz. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I will call to order the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors meeting for August 4th, 2025. It is now 7:03 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Supervisor Vecchio.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Before we move on, I'd just like to note that we did have an executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel issues. We talked about certain pay increases, hiring firefighters, and interview panels for certain township employees. We also conducted a meeting for information gathering purposes. All right, moving on to the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from April 8th, April 15th, April 29th, and May 6th. May I have a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
I motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, questions, comments on the meeting minutes before we take a vote? Corrections? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to public comment. We do have Mr. Kessler here who has prearranged a presentation for us. Mr. Kessler?
I thank you for allowing me to speak. This will be very non-confrontational. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion, and you have to excuse my movements. I have Parkinson's, and I'm doing the best I can. There's been a lot of recent discussion regarding the roundabouts. So I thought I would give a little history. About 25 years ago, I chaired the committee for the township with many residents on the committee. Bill Minsker was one I see here. And we secured funding for the revitalization of Linglestown. We ripped up the roads, redid the curbs, redid the stormwater systems, regraded everything. We put water in. The reason I'm telling you all this is because it's not all about roundabouts, even though I'm going to get to it. And I wanted to speak about it because we don't have the institutional longevity out of no fault of anybody's, of all 5 of the supervisors. You simply weren't on board at that time. But the committee lasted for 10 or 12 years. And we oversaw the construction, the bid process. We held public charrettes. I mean, we involved the public where we had literally hundreds and hundreds of people involved looking at all the plans. And I still have all the blueprints from that job.
Mr. Kessler, you had public charrettes. What is that?
Charrette is a French term.
Okay.
And it's a public gathering for informational purposes.
Like a town hall?
Exactly.
All
I
right.
guess that's what they call it in Paris.
All right, thank you.
But anyway, I'm sorry for using that
No,
term.
that's okay. I learned a new word.
But the important thing is the mandate of the township at the time was for us to make this radical change. We wanted the public to be on board, and we spent several years going through it. I pulled blueprints out from 2003 through 2006. I have them all in my office. I wanted to give some information because I've been reading online, why was this done, why was that done? I do have all the answers. And I actually asked PennDOT's representative, a dear friend of mine, also sit side by side with me because he also oversaw that project on a daily basis. He had another commitment, but he said if you really want to talk to him, he'll come next meeting. But roundabouts are different than traffic circles. And John, I know you know this stuff. But the purpose of a roundabout is to improve public safety with fewer conflicting points and slower speeds. And I saw in Linglestown, I just saw today, there's a flashing speed sign now that was placed. Prior to the roundabout being installed, Linglestown was a landing strip for cars to go through. The circle was 4-way stop signs, T-bone accidents, high-speed accidents. Since the roundabout was installed, and I think it's been there for pushing 20 years now, I don't believe there's been any fatalities, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Garcia, but I believe they're usually low impact, low speed, bumper type of accidents.
That's correct.
The roundabout is doing its job. That's the point. Now there's 2 chicanes, I'll explain that. There's 2 chicanes on the eastern side. That's where the lanes wiggle a little bit. One in front of my farm and one about 50 meters further in. Once again, the point of that is to slow traffic down. What was designed and the way it was designed is perfect. Now, what's not perfect is what I want to talk about. I do have, and John, you may want to see this, I'll leave it for you. I did photo the schematic of the roundabout. The roundabout in the square is 160 feet in diameter. Now, PennDOT recognizes for single lane, slow speed roundabouts, 120, which is narrow, but 120 to 180 foot in diameter. The roundabout we have is right in the heart of the specifications. And that's important. It was not designed improperly. It was designed very appropriately. Our roundabout in Linglestown was, to my knowledge, the first accepted by PennDOT roundabout in the state of Pennsylvania. we were a test case. People ask, why is the roundabout flat? Like if you go at Hershey, it's beautiful with the planter. Is because when we installed our roundabouts, PennDOT refused to allow anything without a clear line of sight. Now things have changed. Now they recognize that's important. And I'm hoping that we can get funding, and I have a way for you to get it, to rebuild the roundabouts up and protect them from the truck traffic, which is what I really wanted to address. Roundabouts generally result in much lower, not only accidents, but speeds. And per PennDOT, the accident speeds involved in single lane roundabouts are about 15 to 20 miles per hour. That's the whole point of the roundabout. And I did some research. There is highway safety grants that's available to local governments. And I'll just read this. This is right off the DOT grants, because we have PennDOT and we also have DOT regarding tractor trailers. And that's the issue. The roundabout in Lingelstown, the road in Lingelstown, the second roundabout in Lingelstown was not designed to permit oversized loads to go through, was not designed for tractor trailers to go over, above, and destroy it.
When
Now-
you, I'm sorry, when you say second, are you talking about the one
By
at
the
Lingelstown
firehouse.
Road and Mountain Road?
That's the primary one. The
that's the prim-
secondary one is by the firehouse.
Okay, thank you.
And there are safety statistics in September 2024 and in 2023. PennDOT did a roundabout safety analysis. There were 43 roundabouts that were analyzed by PennDOT, Lingelstown being one of those. That's how significant Lingelstown is. Roundabouts carry the purpose of a roundabout, by the way. A roundabout will carry about 30% more vehicles than similarized, signalized intersections. In layman's terms, roundabouts keep slow speed traffic moving. That's the whole point. And there is, and I'll hand it up, but there is grants, there's grant money, there's gaming money, but the piece of the puzzle that is missing, that has caused all the aggravation to the citizens. I live along Lingelstown Road. It looks like a wagon train moving east and west sometimes. And Lingelstown was, back in the Open West days, was the avenue that the wagon trains went and drove on to go west, which is kind of crazy. But under the Surface Transportation Assistance Act, STAA, there are, it's difficult for me to read right now, but there are, first, it increased the maximum width of vehicles from 8 feet to 8 feet 6, and this was in 2018. Second, the act now allows those vehicles to access certain state and local roads that were not previously open. However, you can write a local ordinance, and that's what I'm going to implore this township to do, to write a local ordinance prohibiting oversized tractor trailers from going on Lingelstown Road, beyond Piketown Road, I'll be specific, coming from the truck stop. There should be 2 large signs planted. And I drafted one, and I'll just hand it up. PennDOT would have to approve the size, the wording, the location. I know that. 2 signs, a warning sign and a last warning sign, to mandate all oversized loads going westbound on Linglestown Road to turn left and head up to Route 22, which is also a state road. The Pennsylvania State Police, I attended the academy, I graduated the academy. I'm an old guy, it's almost 50 years ago, but I patrolled the highways. Does not have the staffing, and they don't want to, enforce Linglestown Road. It's going to have to lay on the shoulders of Lower Paxton Township. Yes, there's a cost involved. Yes, if you write the ordinance where there's a $1,000 fine. I mean, I remember when we ran scales, there were $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 fines, and we would seize the truck as collateral. If you write an ordinance prohibiting oversized loads on Linglestown Road, the excess manpower should be able to be offset by the fine collections. I know fines are split up. I'm hoping, and I think the ordinance fine can go mostly to the township. That's a solicitor matter, I think, not mine. Going eastbound, same thing. Large warning signs, no oversized loads except for local deliveries. You have to allow that. I think that's your solution.
But what's our problem?
Your problem is the circle is being destroyed on a daily basis. 2 meetings ago in the morning, I lived there, they were repairing the curbing. By the time I came here to the township meeting, they were sweeping up the destructed brand new curbing. You can't build it quick enough. Not only that, it's dangerous. You install crosswalk by the roasters, but they have to die. You know, it's like, what's that old game, Frogger? That's what it's like. If you live on Linglestown Road, I live on the Running Pump Farm, we watch every time there's an accident on 81, it becomes a parking lot. And my experience when I used to run Vascar, when the word gets out amongst the truckers, don't go down this road, they're issuing fines. Believe me, it goes through the trucking community. Now, the latest major destruction of the circle was an oversized load going to Viola. I think it was their water filter. My point is, PennDOT issued the oversized permit to go through Linglestown. That's my understanding. You're smiling. I think that's your understanding as well. We have to stop that. It may be a state road, but it's our community.
Given that it's a state road, are we permitted to write the ordinance for it?
Yes. Number one, local police are permitted. Linglestown Road, perfect example. Local police can write traffic citations, crimes code, vehicle code, no restrictions. I did pull up that there is legislation that will allow, under the Pennsylvania Vehicle Code, you can charge up to $500 fine for an oversized load. I suggest you write an ordinance for $1,000 plus damage payment. And there are several requirements, lane widths and so forth. This is all the new, the average stuff. But Title, I believe 75 gives you permission. But more importantly, I think you need to write a local ordinance. I suggest you coordinate that with the solicitor from PennDOT District 8. That's normal.
Director Kashiba, can I ask you just a question? We have been enforcing trucks traveling through that roundabout, correct, and issuing fines?
Yes, so when we've encountered those issues, our officers have been up there. The issue, Mr. Kessler is correct in the fact that most of these trucks are coming from the truck stop area. And I took another citizen's complaint last week and went up 39 North and checking the signage, and the signage is poor. I had communication multiple times with our traffic safety unit. They are in contact with PennDOT, and there's some recommendations from our folks in traffic safety to change signage. I'm not sure if they'll do any kind of lighted signage, but change color and size of signage. And he is correct. The only out for them once they enter that westbound traffic is Piketown. And the signage has to change there.
Yeah, it's a problem. You cannot hem them in.
Correct.
The law says you must give them an alternative route.
The other thing we have encountered in our research to the problem here is most crossroad truckers have for lack of a better term, they have their own GPS unit that has specific routes for just truck tractors. There's a fee to that. And a lot of these individuals, rather than paying the fee, they just use their cell phone, or some other type of a device that does not have that. And then they obviously run into the problem, i.e. the square. So we have been working on it. It's not something we've completely ignored. We will have to rely heavily, outside of an ordinance, we'll have to rely heavily on PennDOT to actually put the proper signage up there.
Absolutely.
Outside the norm signage, let's put it that way.
I believe the signage is in the next township, so I don't know if you can do it without PennDOT.
Signage exists at this complaint that this individual told me about. And when I drove it, it exists, but it's very small. It needs to be much larger, and there needs to be several signs as you approach the Piketown. So I would agree with you in that particular point.
Yes. So if you can please do something, but writing an ordinance seems like a very logical solution, because you may cite them, but they have to pay the damage. When we, as a committee, got PennDOT on board, and PennDOT picked up 90% of the cost, in essence, it was a handshake deal, but you take care of the roundabout. Now, I don't know who's paying for the curbing, repeatedly being replaced, but I have a feeling probably the township, am I right?
Probably. Yeah.
So another recommendation that came from our traffic safety unit that they're looking at with PennDOT is what they consider mountable curbs. So a mountable curb on either side of the roundabout, which will permit the truck at least at a very small percentage of their wheels to travel across them without ripping out portions of a fixed curb.
We do have roadway, and then we do have a mountable curb apron. They're going beyond that. Now, I did find a European manufacturer that makes these cups, and when a tire goes on it, a spike cup pops up. And that was very logical. I was gonna bring that tonight, but I kind of thought it wouldn't be accepted. But enforcement is the missing ingredient. I apologize. I know it's very manpower intensive. My suggestion, I remember many years ago when I have to patrol the Perdix corridor, we had a CB radio in the car, and you would hear the truckers talk, and after a while, after heavy enforcement, word would get out, avoid it, slow down. It's like a vine. It travels very quickly. And I think you have to cost people money. $500 doesn't cut it, in my opinion. But thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Any other questions for Mr. Kessler?
I have a question. So you said that when you all were working on this roundabout, you called it, what was it, the redevelopment of Linglestown, or the redevelopment of what was that?
I don't, Bill, maybe you remember the name. I called it the Linglestown Committee.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bill, thank
yes.
you. Okay.
And you would have detailed, thick records. We did heavy traffic studies. We have many, many blueprints. I have them still in my office.
So if we were looking for the files here, we would look for the Village of
Linglestown Committee,
Okay.
yes. And I suggest you do look at it. It's very informative.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Kessler?
One more. So are you saying that there are rubberized curbs available?
They're not legal in Pennsylvania. The ones I looked at have spikes that come up through the rubber one entirely. It lands
Well, you
on
said
it.
malleable. What did you?
Mountable.
Mountable.
Oh, mountable. Oh, okay.
But John, I'm going to give you this
Yeah,
diagram.
I'll take a look at it. Another thing I was just talking to Director Shiva with is, if we do get a hold of that trucker and we find them, we have to get their insurance information, and then
We have that. Bill's going to talk. We have all that information.
we send them, that's typical on a highway project.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I think we'll start doing that more often.
Yeah, it's the same thing as the one traffic light by the firehouse. I think that gets knocked down once every other week.
Yeah. I mean, another solution would be put up bollards that will mess the truck up, but. that's
I
probably
agree.
not-
Let it hang up and then
Yeah.
it will get, a multi-$1,000 recovery bill.
Yep.
But I think enforcement is the first thing, and hopefully that enforcement can be compensated, whether you have 4 hours a day sporadically around, however you want to schedule. But if they're going to violate the local ordinance and you can collect a fine, your ordinance may even want to suggest that fine goes directly to the police department to offset patrol costs at that location. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
We
you,
appreciate
Mr.
your
Kessler.
time, and we will be in touch if we need help working through that ordinance. The board desires to. Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Mr. Minsker?
And then,
Good evening, members of the board, staff, and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. A couple things just quickly to add to what Eric mentioned. My name, by the way, is Bill Minsker, 5956 Linglestown Road, Linglestown. The Village of Linglestown Committee was a township appointed committee that got much of our information from Ball State University in Indiana, who had 3 of their professors who travel around the United States and do urban study of issues connected to that urban area free. And we had 3 people that spent 2 days in Linglestown. All they asked for was dinner, and we supplied dinner at the Eagle Hotel, as I remember. And they are the ones who agreed with us that the roundabout was the way to go in Linglestown. We had studied 3 proposals: 4-way stop signs, traffic signals, and the roundabout. And our recommendation was a roundabout. They agreed with this and even prepared drawings, which we still have, of different places within the village where they were making recommendations of things to be done. The biggest thing that was done, more so than in the square, was the bypass connecting Blue Mountain Parkway to Linglestown Road, which we did not think about. That was their suggestion. And that was a horrible issue where the original Blue Mountain Parkway came out into Linglestown Road. There was no way for traffic to really manipulate there, and especially the school buses that went back and forth to Harrisburg Christian School. So the bypass that was put in
from the western roundabout connecting back to Blue Mountain Parkway really solved that whole issue of traffic that was just in terrible condition there. So this Ball State University study that was done free to the township really verified what we wanted to do and gave us some strength to go to PennDOT to get approvals. One more thing, the roundabout issue is what I would like to speak with you tonight about, and I have given you a couple papers there for your blue notebook, if you still have your notebook, and I'd like to go through with that with the 5 minutes that I have on that topic. Again, I remind you, for the 10 items that I'm presenting to you week by week, there are two purposes for these projects. The first is to give you positive activity for our township, to give some positive things for our residents to recognize. And secondly, to give the residents of our township some additional positive things that they deal with every day as we travel in and around our township. So the material that I've given you there at your seat for your blue notebook deals with a proposal I have tonight, coincidentally dealing with roundabouts, and there are 3 roundabouts that I would like to propose for you to consider adding to our street structure. This goes back to, with my background with Eric and the Village of Lingelstown Committee, when we started this whole idea of giving roundabouts for consideration. PennDOT was so impressed by what we did that soon after the dedication in 2012, I think it was, they had a statewide conference at the firehouse for their engineers to come and study what we had done. And this really has developed into, as Eric was saying, into a much, much bigger statewide project. But we got the credit for that. We are the ones that pushed that idea for alternate ways for traffic to deal with combining themselves at intersections. The advantages of roundabouts, which I'd like you to notice on the cover, the first sheet of your letter there in the middle. Roundabouts take less land than traffic signals, and traffic signals were the thing that was pushed most onto us, which were terrible. So there's less land needed for a roundabout. Roundabouts prevent unnecessary backups, and they slow down the traffic. As Eric mentioned, you cannot go through our roundabouts at more than about 20 miles an hour. The average speed is about 15. In reference to that, then, with the traffic keeping moving but not backing up and not going too fast, this eliminates fuel consumption when traffic is sitting at red lights. It also eliminates much of the exhaust from traffic just sitting there and running. Traffic also going through the intersection slowly. If there are accidents, the accidents are minor. And there are many fewer accidents than occur at a traffic signaled intersection. At a roundabout, it also permits, unlike at most traffic signaled intersections, it permits safe U-turns, which people don't think about, but they can do a U-turn there very safely. At a traffic controlled intersection with traffic signals, it's difficult to do that. And then lastly, the overall cost to put in a roundabout is much less expensive to build it and much less expensive to maintain it. So the 3 roundabouts that I'd like to propose to you, which are shown there at the bottom of that first page and pictures on the second page. The first of these is at Colonial Road and Hillside Central Avenue, where Eric's development is going in. That is a perfect place for a roundabout. It would slow down the traffic and it would keep it moving. That's the first one, and you see a picture of that area. The second one is Lingelstown Road and Alexandria and Carroll, Alexandria Lane and Carroll Drive, close to the Capitol nursing home. There's a big area of traffic that comes out on the Lingelstown Road from the north and the south, and a traffic signal there would work very well. There were 2. This is at the intersection I said, it's a little bit further west of Capitol Nursing Home. There were, just after that intersection was put in, there was an accident there that killed 2 people. And a roundabout at that area would solve that issue of giving safe entrance into coming from the north and the south into Linglestown Road. And then beyond that is already the traffic signal at Crumbs Mill Road. The last one is on Linglestown Road, the one I despise the most, with the traffic signal at Central Dauphin High School. The traffic moves through there on Linglestown Road in massive numbers, and it all stops to allow 1 or 2 vehicles normally to cross Linglestown Road. A traffic circle there would eliminate that issue and give continuous flow of traffic moving into that area. So those 3 I recommend to you for consideration. I have also, coincidentally, this morning I met with Mike Gossard, who is the township manager with West Hanover Township, to discuss the Central Dauphin Linglestown Road roundabout, and also to discuss the issue of the traffic at the square with our big roundabout. I gave him 3 proposals, which I will work with Eric. One is a staffing proposal, one is a construction project, and one is signing. The only project of those 3 that would cost the township anything or the state would be for the placement of signs. The staffing issue will be a non-police issue, and the construction issue will be a PennDOT item. And I'll discuss these 3 proposals with Eric, and we'll come back with a little bit more information. Lastly, on the 3rd page of your paper, going back to, I think it was 2000, the date is on there, 2000, let me look. When PennDOT was, and still doing, its study of the Route 39 corridor, I gave them a suggestion for 7 roundabouts on Linglestown Road, 6 of which are shown there on that paper, in addition to the first one, which is at Central Dauphin. So for your future consideration, there are 6 more roundabouts there for you to consider. So I thank you very much for your time again. I remind you that the whole idea here is to do dynamic and also workable, daring projects that are doable. And this one I recommend to you for your consideration. Thank you, and I'll look for you at National Night Out tomorrow night.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Minsker.
Mr. Minsker.
Bill, you recommending a roundabout at Piketown Road, Linglestown Road?
Yes.
Earlier, we talked about having signage there to order the trucks onto Piketown Road? away
That's
from
part
it?
of my sign proposal
Okay, well,
of these 3 things.
the question I have is, would a roundabout there interfere with getting the trucks off of Linglestown Road?
No, there's plenty of room there for them to manipulate. And if the roundabout is built according to the construction suggestion that I have to give to Eric, and we'll talk about, they'll be able to go through the roundabout with no trouble. They can mount the apron and do their turn with no difficulty.
Thank you, Bill.
I guess one more thing I should mention. There is commenting that the roundabouts we have are too small. The best roundabouts are small roundabouts. The bigger the roundabout, the faster people go through it. And the 2 main purposes of a roundabout are to slow down the traffic, but keep it moving. And our roundabouts do this. The traffic goes through them very slowly, and it allows the traffic waiting to enter the roundabout to enter. The bigger the roundabout, the faster the traffic will go through it. And that then does not permit the entrance of the traffic waiting on the aprons, on the ramps to get into it. So our roundabouts do their job. People need to realize the advantages of having a small roundabout. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Minsker.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it the intention of the design to have the big rigs come up onto the roundabout?
come up onto the apron of the roundabout, not to mount the curbing.
Okay, the apron.
And my construction suggestion of the 3 ideas I have will solve that problem. It will keep the trucks from going up onto the curbing, which will come back later. I didn't intend to present that tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Minsker.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Is there any other public comment? Please, and I just want to make a note, both Mr. Minsker and Mr. Kessler prearranged further remarks earlier today, so we did give them a lot of leeway in their time. I will raise my hand at 5 minutes for the rest of public comment. Thank you. Mr. Bostic.
Yeah, my comments, I'm Bill Bostic, 6204 Elmer Avenue in Linglestown. My comments also are going to be brief since it's on the roundabout. So I had a front row seat to a lot of public discussion on Facebook, on Linglestown Gazette, edgy local news. It all started on the 24th when a post was put up there regarding the damage that was already talked about by Eric. They just repaired the curbing, and it was a fairly good size piece was blown out within hours of that project ending. So what I put together was a call to action for review of tractor trailer traffic in Linglestown. It's based on Facebook commenters. I mean, there were hundreds of comments on Linglestown Gazette, several one-on-one conversations with Linglestown residents, conversations with Eric and Bill Minsker, and also just observations from my years of being in the township, actually in the village, during the 14 years that the facility's been in place. It's just 3 points. The first point is just to encourage this board to link up with our state elected officials, as well as potentially West Hanover and Susquehanna Township, in trying to mount a bigger call for action with PennDOT. Based on some of the comments on Linglestown Gazette, PennDOT can be somewhat difficult to get them in action. And so the more voices we have from legislative type people, the better. And then when you get into the actual, the second one involves a number of items that, based on my looking at this, PennDOT would potentially look at. Some of them have already been mentioned. 2 that haven't. Whenever there is a backup on 81 and we have streams of traffic and tractor trailers coming through the village, I believe there's a lack of an emergency plan to deal with that situation. Potentially it would involve fire police that Bill Minsker had mentioned to me. But I think there needs to be a plan that whenever that happens, the public safety people in the area have a plan to actually deal with that and get the tractor trailers to avoid Linglestown. And I think that's only going to happen if there's some intervention from the public safety community. Also, I think there may be a need to develop a plan for local deliveries. Some of those tractor trailers may need to get into the village for the businesses we do have. I'm not sure there's a plan for that. And then lastly, as far as the roundabout itself, taking a look at that over time, what gets hit is the curbing that sort of separates that concrete island from the vegetation. So, I mean, I would discourage any narrowing of that, but actually have PennDOT look at making that the diameter of the vegetation smaller to give trucks trying to make some of these maneuvers, especially from North Mountain Road, entering the roundabout, trying to go west on Route 39. That's difficult for them. And the other one that's difficult, based on the damage that you see there, is when they come into the roundabout from the west, from the truck stops, and they try and make that turn on the North Mountain Road. That's where most of the damage is on those 2 maneuvers. The last item is, I referred to Eric Kessler. I talked to Eric earlier this week, or last week, and as far as local enforcement. So that's what I have for your consideration. And if you have any questions, I'll gladly help you out. Just give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bostic. Any other public comment?
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And maybe this is for the guys that have just spoken and Chief Kashiba. Is there some reason we don't have a flashing notice on 81 telling the rig drivers not to exit here?
So I can answer that. I mean, that would be something that would definitely have to come from PennDOT for the appropriate signage to do that and when to activate or whether or not it would stay activated. So that clearly rests on PennDOT along the interstate, as does the roadway here. But I would agree that we can work together to try and get the answers to some of these questions from our public safety perspective.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other public comment? Mr. Miller.
William Miller, 4311 Crestview. I wasn't going to mention the roundabouts, but Eric, when they're coming from the west, that would have to incorporate Susquehanna Township in this deal. At Progress Avenue, and then at Colonial Road. Divert them. Yeah, it's a tough one. And then Linglestown, I mean, I used to load trucks. It's a good summer job. But they have short trucks. It really depends on the delivery that's coming where, and it's something would have to be explored. But, you know, you still got people going to Wise Market and so on. So trucks will be coming. They just can't, you know, I think a shorter truck in Linglestown would be the way to go. And I guess, you know, you look at you treat the symptom, you treat the cause. It seems like many years ago, 81 and 83 would be three lanes border to border. That's never happened. So any little problem on the interstates, and that's what's really impacting us most of the time. I don't think it's these aren't wayward trucks. So they're there for a mission and a reason to get off the interstate. They want to keep on moving. And I often, with all the amount of revenue from the casinos and so on, you know, do you really want to pick that battle, you know, die on that hill? But still, it's something to be considered. If there's more room out there with a phenomenal amount of increase in traffic, that might be a solution that when you're talking with these people to mention that. But I wanted to mention was the other week, so the township doesn't get into a deal with Verizon. A neighbor called me, one of the trucks doing I don't know, it was trash or recycle, twanged the line. The thing was moving, flipping around. I measured the Verizon line. It was 12 foot 4 inches off the blacktop. They're supposed to be 15.6 to 16 feet when I looked up the regulation. I called the township. Not much we can do, but I felt they should know. I then called the number I had for the company in York. They didn't answer. I called the township back. I was told that I have to call the township so that the trash company will call me. So someone called, left a message. I called back on that number. No one picked up again. My point is, here we go with Verizon again, the main maintenance of lines. I called Verizon. They said they would have a person out there within 4 hours of the day it happened. You know, you rip that down, you look at the impact. You got alarms, you got this, you got people, you got life monitors, you got all this stuff. The disruption is massive, and 12.4 it was wrong. It hit the truck, so it'll hit it again. And I did not want the township being held responsible. Well, they're your vendor and they ripped it down, then the trash company gets in trouble because they ripped it down. Be it known tonight, Verizon did know. They were to have a person out there within 4 hours. They were going to call me. I haven't seen them since. This is 2.5 weeks ago. So same thing with the right-of-way, still on Colonial Road, covered in branches there down by Sheets. Still never cut that down. Still never picked, you got PennDOT not picking up the branches on Colonial Road where people, you know, ride their bikes and walk. It's just, I just want to reiterate, it's the same thing over and over. So PennDOT, Verizon, you know, you're going to hold the landowner responsible for all these different things? I believe I think it's incumbent upon the vendor of that line. They have those right-of-ways. So for another right-of-way, if you come off of Woodcrest off of Colonial, there is a township right-of-way for the sewer department down through from Woodcrest down to underneath Colonial Road, right, you're overlooking from the Goose Valley sign. There's a lot of trash in there. I got a little bit of it before, but you know, There's actually lots in there. Colonial Road was never there. Colonial Road was over on the edge of the 4301 Lakeview property. And I just want to get in there and assess how much trash is in there. How many people do I need? I'm going to get that stuff out of there. I have pictures. It's horrific. And down through there is another Verizon line that the right-of-way is to come in over the township. There's a sewer line. So no one ever got back to me about looking at the line. I just like to see where it is. Are we allowed, can I walk in there? Can we walk in there without getting in trouble? Can we just see what we have to do an assessment, and then everybody on the same page, let the neighbors know we're gonna get like 10 people, 5 people, 1 person, I don't know, and mule some of that stuff out of there, because even though you don't see it, it just seems to accumulate. A lot of beer bottles, people come up Goose Valley, I guess they whip them over the guardrail or whatever. So I just, that's something though the township has to do for us, and I don't see it being maintained either. So maybe it's time to, give it a haircut and make it accessible just in case it's needed. And the other thing was, some people were talking to me about, and again, I'm not scheduling mowing people, but on Goose Valley, Earl Drive, Colonial Club, the vegetation's been growing pretty good. And around some of the curves on these more narrow roads, we got people still ride their bikes there, they're still walking. And I'm hoping just to see those roads mowed 3 times a year. Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day. Not asking a whole lot there if they can get to it. But some of it is a sightline problem. Some of the vegetation's hanging out over, and on Goose Valley, it doesn't help with some of the residents, and I will say it, in Winchester, throw their junk down, their yard waste over their property line down onto the berm of the road for the township to have to clean it up. But that's it. So maybe they can, give it a trim just for the good of the order. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, is there any other public comment? Okay. Moving on to chair and board member comments.
Chief Kashiba, could you bring up my first?
I will.
Thank you. So, what I want to first comment on is the redevelopment authority. There was a discussion or presentation when I was out of town at a conference, and I'd just like to address 3 concerns that I have regarding the township creating a redevelopment authority. A redevelopment authority can be instituted in a second-class township in Pennsylvania, but it must follow the procedures outlined in Pennsylvania's Urban Redevelopment Law Act of May 24th, 1945. So it's a very old law, and during that, in our entire history, we've never had a redevelopment authority. So I'm just wondering now why the issue of creating a redevelopment authority is being brought up. That's one of my first concerns. And that's all I want to do tonight, is just lay out my concerns. The second concern is finding blight. There's a whole legal definition attached to the act, and it addresses physical deterioration, economic decline, social issues, environmental problems, systemic issues. So what I would like to do is to find where all our blight is to warrant creating a redevelopment authority, and to ask whether or not we suddenly have enough blight to warrant the creation of a redevelopment authority, since we never had one before. It was created in 1945. The township is over 260 years old. And we've operated very well without one. We've managed to do some wonderful projects, which were talked about here tonight by Mr. Minsker and Eric Kessler. The third concern that I have is when you create a redevelopment authority, one of the things that I would like to see studied closely is what happens when the redevelopment authority fails? Who is on the line? And I do know the answer to that question is that it's the taxpayers of the township or the municipality that created the redevelopment authority. So I would like to see why those particular redevelopment authorities failed and why some of them were successful. These are questions that I would like answered before we move forward with the consideration of creating a redevelopment authority. Moving on to my next issue, thank you. We recently were informed that there are a number of grants from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, the Main Street Matters program, that we could apply for. I received the email on Monday, July 28th, and being the treasurer, or maybe it's just my nature, I don't like to see money just sit. So there's a planning grant for $50,000. There's a facade grant for $100,000. These are the maximum awards. The facade grant would address the facing exterior building improvements via storefront signs, exterior painting, design assistance, and other similar activities. Business improvement grants of $100,000, projects that stimulate private business investment and better enable business attraction, retention, and expansion. District development grants, $1 million maximum award, large public-private development projects that will improve buildings, housing units, and infrastructure, as well as public safety and aesthetics associated with Main Street, which curiously, at one time, we were the 22 Jonestown Walnut Street corridor was designated Main Street. Accessible housing grants, $300,000 maximum award. Projects that undertake accessibility improvements to housing units for people with permanent physical disabilities so that they may remain in or return to their home. I've shared with the other supervisors ideas that I had about implementing these grants, and I gather that there's some resistance because it is a tight timeline. But I communicated with the grant writers at HRG because they have been our grant writers for a number of years, and I asked them if this was doable. And they indicated to me that as long as we had projects targeted, projects picked out by August 8th, that it could be submitted and we would be able to make the August 31st deadline. I just hate the thought of letting this money that we can use for Lower Paxton Township improvement just sit. So I really am pushing. I know that. I'm pushing to apply for these grants, not just one, several of them. I'd like to look at the planning grant for sure because perhaps that would help give us some funding to figure out what else we can do with the Colonial Park Mall. I know that some people might say that would fall under the definition of blight, okay? I'm not gonna waste my time arguing against that. I live in that, I walk to the Colonial Park Mall. I definitely wanna see that improved. I wanna see it improved to the point that it becomes a destination for the community, for the township, but we don't necessarily need a redevelopment authority to do it all of a sudden. Here's money that could help us do a study. There's money that could help us the implementation grant. That would be money that would help us with different projects. So I would like, honestly, I would like to apply for each and every one of them that we can. So that's all I wanted to say on that. I need to get my fellow supervisors to support me in this. If we don't apply for this money, it seems to me to be just letting money go to waste, and I see no good reason to do that when HRG has our numbers already. I've already asked that question. All we have to do is pick projects and come up with a budget, and they will help us come up with a budget. So that's 1 and 2 on my list. The others, I will just go ahead now and remind the public that we are getting ready to enter budget season, and it is participatory. So we are inviting you to come in and sit in on our budget meetings that we have in our room 174, so that you can have some say in what's going on in the township in terms of us forming the budget that has to be passed by mid-December. Thank you.
Okay, a couple things I'd like to address. This week, Supervisor Thompson did raise the issue of grants with us and applying for certain grants, and I absolutely support her effort in applying for those grants. My only question is if HRG can help us within that time clearly define the scope of those projects. I've presented with HRG at PSATs conferences. They will tell you on financing strategies and funding strategies for township projects. They will tell you that you should not go grant shopping. You need to make sure that you have your projects clearly delineated before moving forward. If we can do that, let's do it. Absolutely. Thank you for raising that issue, Supervisor Thompson. The other thing that I want to raise briefly is this idea of a development authority. It's really tough. I mean, when you come on a board, there's a lot of criticism for ideas that you raise, and this was just an idea. The public doesn't like it. We won't do it. But a few things that I just need to point out based on the presentation that Supervisor Thompson gave. She's looking at the entirely wrong statute. I was proposing that we create an economic development authority under the Economic Development Financing Law, which is Act 102 of 1967. Those projects do not require a determination of blight. Supervisor Thompson read you the definition of blight. Blight, since the time that statute has been enacted, has evolved over the years through case law. Blight means any property that is not being used to its highest and best value. That's what blight means. I think we can all agree that there are township properties within the township that meet that criteria. You know, the township would have to approve almost every project that a development authority would have to undertake if they were financing that project. There are state regulations, federal regulations that would require this board's approval. So moving forward with an authority and creating authority, my goal is to get individuals that have experience in economic development onto an authority board that can help guide our vision for looking at these issues within the township. I am unaware of redevelopment authorities that have failed. If you can provide me with a list of them, I would love to look at them. Generally, when these financings are undertaken, there's no recourse to the township. There's no personal liability on the Board of Supervisors, and that's how most of them are drafted. Perhaps we can find one that wasn't correctly structured, but the township would sign off on every project that a redevelopment authority would undertake. I also just want to note that the Board of Supervisors can remove, with or without cause, any redevelopment authority board members. So any concerns about having board members in place and not being able to remove them is unfounded. There's over 200 municipalities in Pennsylvania that have economic development authorities. A township of this size needs to focus on it. I just offered to help because I have experience creating these authorities in my professional capacity and working on financings. I also sit on the state's largest economic development financing authority board, and I was appointed to that board by a Democratic governor. So I am just trying to advance this idea. I would invite the public to come out and let us know if you support this project, forming an authority. If you don't, we don't do it. It was a presentation at a workshop in order to raise the issue for everybody's consideration. So that's all I'll say on that. Thank you. Any other board member comment? Okay. What is next? All right. Manager's report.
Thank you, Chair. In the interest of time, I'll keep this short and just give a report on our hiring activities. As most people are aware, we are looking for a considerable number of replacements, including the finance director, the manager, soon to be the finance manager, and also some economic or community development folks. And it's ongoing. We have a list of people that we have invited for interviews for the finance director position. Hopefully we have those scheduled this week, possibly next on Monday. The next one up will probably be the manager. We do have a list of, we're getting some pretty good applications in, some good resumes. So the idea will be to go through those and pick maybe the top 5 or 6, which we spoke about tonight, how to go through that process. And I think what we're going to do is have staff go through the first list, the big list, and then call that down to a more workable number, which then the supervisors can interview. So, and they spoke about having some form of public input. So, and then after that will probably be the finance manager, who is scheduled to leave at the end of the month. And we've haven't started advertising for that position yet, but that's kind of where we're at with the 3, what I would consider the 3 major hires. There's also one other thing I wanted to bring up. There was something was brought to my office about a noise ordinance change that was allegedly underway. I can tell you there is no change to the noise ordinance being underway. What happened there was the board had asked our solicitor to take a look at the noise ordinance, to take a look at the decibel levels that were outlined in there, which she did. She gave some recommendations, and there's been no direction to the solicitor since then. So regardless of what you hear or read, there are no changes to the noise ordinance underway. So I just wanted to clear that up, because I think the caller had questioned why this was being done without the public's notice, and I didn't really know what she was talking about. So I had to go and ask some folks, what's this thing about a noise ordinance? That's where they told me the history was. It was asked to be looked at. It never went any further. So there are no changes coming to the noise ordinance. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Okay, moving on to old business. We'll have the audit presentation by ZA. Mr. Schroeder. Mr. Schroeder, I apologize. It's now an hour into our meeting. I thought you might think you'd be home for dinner. Thank you for being here and answering our questions.
Hi, good evening. My name's Corey Johnson, actually. I'm the partner from Zelenkowski Axelrod. This is Derek Schrader. He's a principal with our firm, and appreciate you having us in tonight. We'll be brief. First and foremost, the audit went really well. So during our audit period, we primarily worked with Mr. Gutshaw, Mr. Miller, and Ms. Dunlap, and they were phenomenal. Most audits we work on, we do a lot of municipalities, a lot of counties, a lot of school districts. Most have a lot of audit findings. Probably the most common audit finding that we have is audit adjustments. I'm proud to say here that, your staff prepares financial statements that did not require any audit adjustments as a result of our audit procedures. They are really, really good. So, again, everything was filed timely for all intent and purposes. The work was done in mid-June. We had to wait a couple weeks for the solicitor's letter, which is common. I think there was a vacation in there or something. No offense. But so that's good. We issued an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can give you. That means we believe everything in your financial statements to be materially accurate. There was a new adoption of 3 GASBs. I won't go into detail, but none of them had an effect on you this year. The one that has an effect, around the state, and in most cases, is new accounting for compensated absences. But again, your staff was on top of that and already had it done the right way, so we didn't have to revamp anything there. And just high level, your fund balance is 14 million. I'm going to use some round numbers. Your current year expenditures for 24 were $35 million. That's 40%. That's really, really good. By the way, most places we work with are lucky to have, 6 to 8%. So I think the financial health, what I'm trying to say, of the township is really good. When you look at your statement of net position, which is a full accrual basis statement, when most entities that have net pension liabilities and other post-employment benefit liabilities, when you have both of them, it usually creates a negative net position. Yours is still positive. So again, I think from a rating agency perspective, from an outsider's perspective, when I look at your financial statements, I see that you're in good health. Derek's going to take a couple seconds here and walk through a couple major changes.
Just one thing, sir. Could you explain what a GASB is for the uninitiated?
Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They're the thinkers that tell us how we got to adopt and account for certain things. They make our lives miserable.
I understand. I was a practitioner for 17 years.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so just to go over a couple of the larger changes amongst the different statements that you guys see in front of you. You'll actually see we actually sent you guys 2 different audit reports. The larger one, it's about almost 90 pages, is the financial statement audit. That's what I'll primarily be talking about tonight. The smaller one is your single audit, which is an audit of compliance-based, based on your schedule of expenditures of federal awards. What that means is that based on the amount of federal grants that you guys receive, you guys qualified to have a single audit performed. And because of that, we had to audit a particular percentage of those federal awards. So that's what that second smaller report actually is. When it comes to the actual financial statement, again, the larger report, just a couple things that really spiked out as we were doing our audit work. From a balance sheet perspective on the governmental fund side, the largest change that we noticed was the large due to between the general fund and the fire equipment fund, and that was primarily based on the 3 fire trucks that were purchased in 2024. On the income statement side, again, talking about governmental fund, just for governmental funds, the largest change actually had to do with the difference between 2023 and 2024 recycling contract. That was changed. So in 2023, there was only a half a year that changed, and then in 2024, you had the full year. So the actual change, I think, was about $3 million between your charges for services and your health and sanitation expense. So moving on to your business type activities, which is your authority. Largest changes on the balance sheet, you'll see when you're comparing the two between this year's and last year's, you'll see restricted investments increased in 2024 based on an increase in unspent bond proceeds due to the 2024 bond that you guys had. You'll also see an increase in capital assets. That was due to an increase in capital purchases for capacity additions. That was about $5.8 million. And then lastly, an increase in long-term debt, which again, going back to what we had talked about originally, was the 2024 authority debt for capital improvements. On the income statement side, you guys did have increases in both revenues and expenses, but they were in line with what we thought that they would be, so there wasn't anything that really spiked out separately. The only thing that really changed from year to year was the 2024 CFA grant, which was $1 million. So outside of that, all your notes and your supplementary information, all of that stayed relatively the same. We didn't really have any new notes based on any of the new GASBs, which sometimes we will. Outside of that, everything was pretty well done. So Single audit side, getting it back to that smaller report. Again, it's only a couple pages. It's not a large report. But your total financial, total federal awards were about $1.5 million. We audited 83% of those, which is significantly more than we actually are required to audit. We only have to audit 40%. And that's due to the size of the one program that you guys had. So we have to pick one of them. We can't cherry pick certain pieces of it. So we have to pick one of the programs that was the largest program, and that ended up being about 1.2 million. And again, after what Corey said, no findings. We didn't have any findings when we went through and looked at any of the records and the reporting that went along with that grant. So with that, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. I know Supervisor Thompson, do you have a couple of questions?
I do. So, do you do a number of audits for a number of municipalities?
Yes.
Okay. Do you do any audits for a municipality of similar size as we are?
Yes.
Okay. So how do we compare?
I mean, each municipality stands on its own. But with that being said, as I started off with, I think like financial health wise, like you are in good shape. The people that were here during the audit that we worked with, Jada and Mr. Miller, namely, were top notch. So you're better than most. Like I said, most we have findings with. We did not have findings here. They prepared the financial statements. We prepare them, and 98% of our audits, we prepare the financial statements.
So.
We don't prepare them here.
Okay. You said we had no findings.
You had no findings.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do you look at trends?
We do look at a lot of the numbers analytically.
Can you tell us anything about any of our trends?
In what specifically are you asking?
How are our expenses?
Well, that's what we covered, the ones that were above a certain dollar threshold and over 10%. They were the ones that we namely talked about. Everything else would have been under that scope.
Okay. All right. Okay, let me ask, did you look at our and I was educating myself because I'm new to this, so my question might be worded a little strangely. Is there do we have a list of our unfunded liabilities? Is that something that we need to be tracking?
So that's what's common. That's what I was referring to with your net pension liability and your other post-employment benefits liability. They're never 100% funded. Frankly, other post-employment benefit liabilities, there may be 1% funded around the state. A couple places have trust for them. When that legislation came about in the GASB, nobody could afford it in their budget. It was the reality of that. Now, your net pension liability, now that is funded. I don't know in the top of my head how much, but I would say it would be predominantly funded, which is why you make an ARC payment every year towards that. You have an actuary that tells you what you need to do basically to keep up with the funding.
Okay, thank you. I think that was my last question. Thank you. I gave myself my own tutorial, okay? So, sorry if my questions weren't.
Nope, they were great.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Mr.
Thank you.
Verneau, Jada,
Jada, good
anything
job.
you would like to raise on the audit? Looks like it's in order.
All I want to say is it helps to have 2 CPAs in local government in your finance department, and I guess we did our jobs, so
Would second that.
that's all I
Absolutely.
have to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time and for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. And just to confirm, Mr. Verneau, I don't think we need to make a motion to approve the audit. We are just accepting the audit as presented by ZA, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we will move on to item 7B, which is the approval of the change order number 1 for the 2025 paving project for time extension.
Oh, that's okay. I can speak to this very, very briefly. The change order that is being requested is not one of money. It's just a matter of time. Because of the constant rain and other issues this year, the paving has been slower than usual. So what they're asking for in this change order is an extension of the time to complete and inspect to October the 15th and October the 31st respectively. So again, there's no change to the cost of the township with this change order. It's just an extension of time for 2 weeks.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Verno on this? May I have a motion to approve change order number 1 for the 2025 paving project?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, public comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the results of the PFM salary study for the Bureau of Fire.
Hi, good evening. I will give us a minute to get the slides up. You can do the first one, yeah.
Kelly.
Oh, do it. Can I do it? It's not coming up either. They have to give me like access. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Sorry about that. Apparently, we timed out. We're a little long-winded.
No, that's great. I was prepared to go forward, but it'll be much more interesting for you all if you can see our beautifully colored presentation. So good evening. Thank you for having us here. I'm Chloe Bohm. My colleague Gordon Mann is sitting back there behind me. We are from PFM Group Consulting, which is a public finance and management consulting firm based here in Pennsylvania. And over the last 2 months, we've had the pleasure of working with Director Kashiba and Deputy Chief Graham. And our task was to provide an independent evaluation of the firefighter and fire lieutenant compensation plan that they had developed over far longer than the 2 months that we took to evaluate it. So today I'm going to walk through the summary of key findings. This is just the highlights from the full report that we provided to the director and to the Board of Supervisors. So, to get started, from a cash compensation perspective, the proposed compensation plan is competitive. We'll see overall that base pay for the firefighters is actually above the regional comparison group from the time they start to 19 years into a firefighter's career, although not at the top of the pay scale. I will dive into each of these and show you some graphs as we go. The proposed shift schedule is 42 hours, which is typical for many, but different from some fire departments. So when we get into it, we will do analysis. We did analysis by hourly as well as annual salaries. And we also looked at your fire lieutenant pay scale. You can stay on the first one. Overall, in terms of health benefits, the benefits are very competitive regionally. The proposal is to have the firefighters in the same benefit plan as the others, so it's also equitable internally. And finally, we looked at the proposed retirement plan, which is in many respects comparable to the group, but there is one big difference that I'll talk about as we get into it, which is the retirement age being significantly higher than what you typically see for firefighters or public safety nationally, as well as what we see in the region. So if you go to slide 3, here you can see the actual pay scale that is proposed. You can see it both hourly and annual, and the proposal is to start at $52,000 base pay for firefighters who have not completed the academy. Those who have completed the academy would come in at the first step at $56,600, and all firefighters would hit the maximum step at $79,600 after completing 5 years of service. Go on to the next slide. We'll talk about how it compares internally with other township positions. So I'll just say at the front of this, especially when we're looking at other types of positions, there are no apples to apples comparisons. A firefighter is different from any other position that you're going to have that look at. So for that reason, we looked at the gamut of all of the positions and pay bands within the township. You see here all of the collectively bargained positions. The firefighter and lieutenant are shown in the blue bars, and you can see they're at the top of the range. In this bar on the left, you have the starting salary. On the right, you have the maximum and the pay scale for 2025. They're at the top of the other collective, well, I shouldn't say other, of the collectively bargained positions, because the firefighters will not be collectively bargained. They're below those top 3 bars, which are the 3 ranks for the police department. And this is just consistent with what we expect to see. On the next slide, you'll see it compared to the pay bands that the township developed last year for non-collectively bargained positions. So after that study was completed, the consultant that did it did do a follow-up review of the position descriptions for the firefighter and fire lieutenant and provided recommendations about where they should sit in these salary bands. Their recommendation was that the firefighter should be in the specialist 3 category. You can see here, particularly if you look at the $56,600 for folks like the new incoming potential hires that have completed academy. It overlaps between the specialist 2 and specialist 3 category, but it is quite close to the specialist 3. Fire lieutenant, the recommendation from the previous consultant was that it should be in the manager 1 category. You can see there that upper blue band. It does overlap with that category, with the top and bottom. However, it is farther from the top. However, when I show you the regional comparison a little bit later, you will see that it is in line with what we see for the region for first line supervisors, which are lieutenants or captains, depending on the department regionally. Which brings us to, if you go to the next slide, our regional comparison. So we focused on departments that are full service, have full-time career firefighters in the Harrisburg, Lebanon, York combined statistical area. That's a census designation that measures areas that are in close proximity and have at least 15% of the commuting traffic going back and forth across the borders. So we don't have to guess at what the right area is for the labor market. The census and Bureau of Labor Statistics does that for us. And within that area, there were 6 fire departments that we looked at. 2 of them are regional fire departments. So as we get into it, you'll see that there are some places where we ended up analyzing 9 pay scales, including the proposed pay scale for the township, but it is just 6 fire departments. I will just say that, just like I said with different positions, when you look internally within the township, there are differences between different types of positions. Even when you're looking at all firefighters, there are also differences in different fire departments. The organizational structure, as I mentioned briefly, the hours that are worked. There can be other differences in non-cash compensation that go beyond the health benefits and pension that we're going to talk about today. So there are many reasons why you might not be at the exact midpoint or the median. But that is a place that you can look at as a reasonable target to be. So going on to the next slide. First, we looked at overall base and longevity. This is ordered by the maximum base longevity. And you can see here that the proposed compensation for firefighters would rank 7th out of the 9 when you look overall at all 9 pay scales. If you notice, there are the 4 gray bars over on the right. Some of them are brown, some of them are gray. Those 4 gray ones are your regional fire departments. So it's just 2 departments, but each one has 2 pay scales. And this is at the annual compensation level. So as we go on the next slide, I'll show you what this looks like sort of year by year. So we look at the way we analyze it every single year. If you come in, so it's apples to apples. If you come in at year 1, what are you making compared to the other departments at year 2 and so on? So you can see here that in that red box over on the side, that we are at the 2nd or 3rd highest in this group of 9 pay scales. Again, that's 9 pay scales representing 6 departments in the region plus Lower Paxton. So 2nd or 3rd highest for the first 10 years of service. And on this slide, you only can see through year 12, because that's a lot of little numbers. But you'll see on the next slide, going through to the rest of the typical tenure, we actually went as far as 30 years of service because some of the pay scales continue increasing well into up to 34 years of service, actually, in some of the other places. Lower Paxton's proposed pay scale for firefighters would be above the median, so above the midpoint of the regional group, through the first 19 years of service. So you can see those first 3 sets of bars. The blue, which is Lower Paxton, is higher than the median of the benchmark group, and then starting in 20 years of service and for the rest, Lower Paxton is below the benchmark median, and the reason for that is because the structure of the pay scale for the firefighters that is proposed in Lower Paxton has them hitting their maximum earlier in their career. And that is, in our view, a reasonable and appropriate thing to do when you're staffing up a new department, to be investing more heavily in the front end of the career so that you can get people in the door. If you go on to the next slide. As I mentioned, there are differences in the number of hours worked. You can see here that 4 of the 6 comparison departments also work 42-hour schedules, which is what is proposed for the new firefighters that will be hired in Lower Paxton. The 2 regional departments each work 52 and 53 hours respectively. So we looked at all of the salary information on an per hour basis just to see, what is it if you're looking at that hourly rate comparison. Go ahead to the next slide. And you'll see that this is the same graph as before, but on an hourly basis, and you can see that blue line, again, that blue line, because they hit that maximum compensation after 5 years of service. So it hits that $36.45 an hour after 5 years and continues on throughout the career. The benchmark median is lower at the beginning, rises up, but Lower Paxton on an hourly basis stays above the median for the regional group, which means it is competitive regionally throughout the career, even as you get into that 20, 25, 30 years of service. Go to the next slide. We also looked at the fire lieutenant, which we compared to the first line supervisor in each of the departments. Like I said, some places they called a lieutenant, some places they called a captain, but in all cases we're looking at the first line supervisor for firefighters. And again, you see the same story. We look at the maximum that someone in that role can make, looking at base plus longevity across all of the departments if they have longevity. Not all of them do. And so Lower Paxton comes in 6 out of 9. Again, that's 9 pay scales, not 9 separate departments. And then if on this scale, I also have the regional ones shaded, so you can see that Lower Paxton's actually just below 3 departments and above 3 departments on an annual basis, exactly at the midpoint if you're counting per department. And then on an hourly basis, rises up to 2nd out of all 9 pay scales, just surpassed by York City, which is higher than the others. So you go next to the health benefits. So the proposal would be to put the new firefighter hires and fire lieutenants in the non-police health benefit plan. So you've got, not shown on this slide, but in the full report, the benefit plan for police and non-police are equally generous. There are some minor differences, but nothing significant on the health side. And if you look at them compared to others in the region, the health package that Lower Paxton offers is actually very competitive. They are one of just 2 departments that offers health benefits where the employee does not make any contribution to the monthly premiums. And then in the full report, we included our analysis of other elements of health plans, so co-insurance and co-pays and deductibles. And the Lower Paxton plan is also very competitive compared to those in the region. It's right at the lowest employee payout, or equal or comparable to one of the lowest in each case. Lastly, we looked at pension benefits. And so here again, the proposal would be to put the new firefighters in the non-police, non-uniform pension plan. And there are, in general, the structure of the pension plan is very comparable to those in the region. But you will see, we are showing here in this red box the thing that stands out to us, and that is the age of retirement. So for each of the others, they have a fire department pension plan, and they each have a retirement age of 50 or 55 years of service. Likewise, you can see that second blue row is the Lower Paxton Police Pension Plan. So if you're looking at internal comparability with other public safety positions internal to the township, the age of retirement there is 50. And generally, the age of retirement for public safety, fire, and police is often 50 or 55. The non-union retirement plan is age 65. Now, there is a balance there. You can see that column on the right, the employee contribution at 3.5%, and stopping after 27 years of contributions is one of the lowest, not the absolute lowest, but one of the lowest in the group, is much more typical. The median is 5% employee contribution. So there is some trade-off, but that is a notable difference between the regional pension plan group. So if we go on to the last slide, I'm just going to restate our main findings here, and that is that overall, the proposed compensation plan is in line with the comparison group. It is competitive regionally on a cash compensation basis. Most importantly, it is most competitive at the front end, and although it is below the median at the back end, it remains above the median on an hourly basis, so it is right in line with what you see in the region. The health benefits are very competitive regionally. That's a strong element of the compensation, the total compensation plan that you're offering, something that is valuable to employees. And the retirement benefits, the overall structure is consistent with what you see for the firefighter pension plans, but being that the proposal would put them in the non-uniform pension plan, that age of retirement is higher than what we would recommend to be regionally competitive and equitable with other types of public safety positions. But because that employee contribution is lower, there is the opportunity that if you were to create a tier where you lower the retirement age for firefighters in the non-uniform plan, you could potentially, on an actuarial cost basis, get some savings from increasing the employee contribution to something more in line with the regional group, and that can offset at least some of that cost if you were to lower the retirement age. And that is everything that we found, the highlights at least. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for PFM?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to compliment Chloe on all the work that she's done with Chief Graham and myself. Her team has been very receptive. We put them on a pretty tight time schedule, and we've been on many Teams meetings with them. They've been very receptive and helpful, so thank you for the work that you've done, and thank you to Chief Graham and Sam Miller, who prepared some of this early on with Chief Graham as well.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
I just want to add that this was a necessary, critical step to our overall process of implementing these firefighters, and I thank you for a comprehensive and well-done report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Deputy Chief Graham, is there anything that you'd like to add? We can't move on without consulting you first. Or any updates you'd like to provide now that we passed this step?
No, I just, I appreciate Chloe and the team that worked on this. Like the director said, we had many positive conversations. A lot of input was put in, and it was reassuring to know that we weren't too far off the mark. So once we get direction from the board, the background investigation for our potential hires were completed today, and we have some decisions to make this week to hopefully put out some conditional offers. So thank you.
Great, thank you. It's exciting. Moving forward. Okay. And again, they just prepared their presentation and gave their remarks. There is no action that needs to be taken on this item. So we will move on to subdivision and land development improvement guarantees. Supervisor Thompson?
Are we going to show them?
You would hope so.
There we go.
Okay. All set?
Good.
Okay. All right, so we've got about 8 improvement guarantees. Autumn Oaks Phase 2, that's going to be released. Autumn Oaks Phase 2A is going to be released on, oh, sorry. So sorry. Okay, Autumn Oaks Phase 2 is going to be released. Autumn Oaks Phase 2A is going to be released. Autumn Oaks Phase 3 is released. That means that all the items on the to-do list are done. Autumn Oaks Phase 4, all those have been completed. With regards to, I don't have a note, 4033 Lingelstown Road, that's also going to be released. CD Middle East is released. Shade Brook has a little bit of stormwater management work that needs to be done, so that's just going to be extended. 783 North 67th Street, extension was requested. Small things to be done, 1120 Weinrich. Small things to be done, but it's in the early stages. And 6311 Lighters Lane, that's new build, so that's going to be with us for a while. I wanted to share a memo from Director Zerby on the Memorial Eye Institute. If anybody remembers, back in February, the board decided that we weren't going to extend anymore. We wanted that sidewalk constructed. So the sidewalk was put in, but there is a little bit of a failure because the ADA ramps aren't quite correct, so it has to be pulled out and redone. When we come back to our board meeting on August 19th, I anticipate that that will be released. So that's where we are with our improvement guarantees. I make a motion to accept the improvement guarantees. I need a second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, public comment on this item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Payment of bills, Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority. Supervisor Thompson?
Having reviewed the 3 check registers, the check on demand, the Sewer Board of Supervisors register, and the Township Board of Supervisors register, all my questions were answered satisfactorily, so I make a motion to pay the bills.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, public comment on the bills? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Any announcements from the board?
I think we all know that tomorrow night is National Night Out, so we hope that you all will join us at George Park for a fun night for families and residents.
I would like to give the community a heads up that there is a development that's going to be uploaded within the next couple of weeks. You'll just have to check the township website. It's the Weinrich development. It's going to start with about 700 units. So I want you all to be aware of it and just be looking in case you desire to make comments, come in and ask questions. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, just a couple quick,
I think there's a little bit of confusion on the redevelopment authority. On July the 8th, on the agenda at the workshop, it does say redevelopment authority. So when Ms. Thompson did say redevelopment, I just looked it up. So I don't know. On the agenda, when the presentation said redevelopment authority, and you were saying economic development authority. So I think people are talking because on the agenda, and there was a lot of people here, it did say redevelopment authority.
you can call an authority whatever name you would like to give it. I will tell you that Lower Allen Township, when they created their authority, it was an economic development financing authority. They called it the Lower Allen Township Development Authority. I apologize if that's how it was on the agenda and it confused people. However, my presentation on page 1, and I will send it to you, does say that this would be created under the Pennsylvania Economic Development Financing Law.
It does say redevelopment authority on the agenda because people have been talking that weren't here at the meeting, and they're talking about redevelopment authority, and that's what it does say on the agenda. I just looked it up when she was talking about
and they can refer to the presentation that I also gave at that meeting too. So I appreciate that. Thank you. We'll be very clear going forward what statute we're attempting, if the public is so inclined. to create an authority under. So really quickly, Veolia. Last week, I think some of you might have seen on Facebook that we met at Representative Justin Fleming's office. The supervisors were there along with representatives from Susquehanna and Steelton. Senator Patty Kim was there. We tried to push for more openness, transparency on what's been going on. Since the meeting, Veolia has been posting a little bit more information on its Facebook page. They promised to continue updating us on social media, and we will do that as well. As we get invites or updates on information from them, we will make sure that we push that out through our social media as well. Veolia still, I think everybody knows this, is advising us to flush our pipes, as well as those who have had laundry ruined or other damages. Please contact customer service. I think that there were other offices, local government offices that were collecting complaints on Veolia's half, but they say please contact them directly. Their customer service number is 888-299-8972. And we will just continue to monitor the situation to the best that we can. The last thing I just want to quickly mention is that our township is developing an active transportation plan to expand and improve options for walking, biking, and traveling throughout our community. We do encourage residents to attend the public open house from 5 to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, August 12th at the Municipal Center. We also ask you to go online and fill out a brief transportation survey, and a link to that survey is on our website. So if you need more information, please don't hesitate to reach out, but please go on and fill out that survey. Okay, and with that, any other announcements? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Bam, mic drop.